Good morning, everyone. Good. How is everybody? Yay. It's our joy to be here with all of you today. Happy Yogananda's birthday weekend and Happy New Year. The reading on the creation this morning reminded me of the story of Eve, who was walking in the garden one day with the Lord. And she says, Lord, this garden is so beautiful. The animals and the birds bring me such joy, but I still get lonely sometimes. And the Lord says, no problem, Eve. I will make you a man for a companion. He will desire to please you and be with you. But there's one thing about this man. He's not going to be perfect. He's going to have a hard time understanding your feelings, and he's going to want to stay out late bowling. And Eve says, what's bowling? And the Lord says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. And Eve said, no worries, I think I can handle this man. So then the Lord leans over and he grabs some mud and he starts creating man. And then he leans over to Eve and he says, oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. You're going to have to tell this man that he was here first. Oh, we had to have some fun. It's a new year. It's such a blessing here at Ananda because our holidays don't end till January 5th. January 5th, which is tomorrow, 1893, is when Yogananda was born, a great master into this world. And as Daiva said, we're largely, it's because of Yogananda, largely, that yoga is here. He brought so much to the West for us. The teachings of self-realization, and we always say with a capital S, the knowing of who we really are. In essence, who are we? And then it's so wonderful that we start the new year with the affirmation on success. If you're new here today, every week we have a different quality that we focus on. Next week will be love, and then there's happiness and joy. There's 52 beautiful qualities to focus on. And it's so wonderful we get to start with success. I leave behind me all my failures, all my accomplishments, all what we think is not the best of us, and everything that we think is the best of us. We get to leave them all behind us so that we can create a new and better future filled with what? With inner joy. What is inner joy? It's that knowing of who we really are in essence. This Gita reading so beautifully talks about the cosmic creation and how God created the universe, right? It was dreamt by him. It's his own consciousness. And that beautiful visualization, it's like a thread uniting all the pearls of a necklace. Each pearl can be different on the surface, but it has that same thread, uniting us, that very same thread. And while we can say that God created the universe, and he is the universe, he's not defined by it, is he? So much greater than it. He's not limited by it, right? And nor is the universe even aware of his existence, right? We have to be reminded. That's why the great masters come. That's why Yogananda came, to remind us of that connection, of who we really are. And it's hard. And then what is then true success? It's not all those greatnesses, all those failures we think we have had, right? They always lead us to the next step, ultimately. But it's that knowing of inner joy, that knowing who are we. And it's hard. It's hard to do it on our own. And that's why Yogananda talked about environment is stronger than willpower. Environment. Where do we choose to put our energy? Where do we choose to put our thoughts? Okay, it's not just what we do on a Friday night or a Saturday night or a Sunday morning, but then Yogananda said, in the moments. What are we doing in the moments? Are we thinking of God in the moments? Okay, and then if we forget to think of God in the moment, I leave behind me all my failures, all my accomplishments. What I do today at this very moment will create a new and better future filled with inner joy. And so we have the blessing to come together. We have the blessing to have places like this where we can come together and worship and be reminded in that environment of what true success is, of why the masters came, for that connection. Tomorrow night we'll be having a beautiful ceremony in honor of Yogananda's life, but it's really an opportunity for us to feel his presence more deeply in our lives. It's a devotional evening, so come if you can. We'll both be sharing a little bit this morning. We don't want to talk a lot of how we can experience God's presence. It's in the moment, but it's in our own hearts. It's in the experience. I want to read God's Boatman. It's a beautiful poem from Whispers from Eternity. Yogananda said, if you want to know me, read my whispers. But this poem in particular highlights the importance that God and Guru put on us, coming back to him, back to God, back to Guru. Okay, he tells us in this poem he's going to wait till one last person is standing or sitting probably or whatever or lying prostrate, just waiting for him to come. For us to come, but he will wait. But we have to come too. Okay, that's so important. We have to make the effort and know that any effort, as the Gita promises us, is never lost. Any effort. Doesn't have to look like this great big thing. God created the universe, its consciousness, this vastness, but it can be a leaf. We can offer, as the Gita tells us, a leaf. A leaf is small. A fruit. What fruit do we love the best? Offer it to God. What flower do we love? What flower reminds us of God's consciousness? And then he will be waiting for us. Read this poem. Read this poem this year. Read it over and over. God's Boatman. I will come. I will come for you. They came for us, the masters, the great ones. They didn't come for themselves. They came for us. So this is God's Boatman. Let's take a moment and just close our eyes and feel for these words inside, deep in our hearts, where we can truly experience his presence. I want to ply my boat many times across the gulf after death and return to Earth's shores from my home in space. I want to load my boat with all those waiting, thirsty ones who have been left behind, that I may carry them to the opalescent pool of iridescent joy. There where my Father distributes his all-desire-quenching liquid peace. Oh, I will come back again and again, crossing 1,000,000 crags of suffering. With bleeding feet, I will come, if need be 1,000,000,000,000 times, as long as I know that one stray brother is left behind. I want thee, O God, that I may give thee to all. I want salvation that I may give it to all. Free me then, O Lord, from the bondage of this body, that I may show others how they too can free themselves. I want thine everlasting happiness, but I want also to share it with others, that all my brothers may find the way to happiness forever and forever in thee.
I love Ananda. It's been 33 years now since I was introduced to Yogananda, and 32 years since I found Ananda, and 30 years since I moved to my first Ananda community. And I came because I felt the movement of spirit inside, the call for something beyond what this world and what the days of my life would ever yield. And I knew I couldn't bear being in this world without that contact, without that something else. But once I found it, and I touched it first through Yogananda, and then I found it reinforced and supported and nourished through Ananda, everything else became meaningful. Everything else found the light. It's funny, they say in the Bhagavad Gita, it says in the Bhagavad Gita that what is day for the worldly man is night for the yogi. And what is night for the worldly man is day for the yogi. And not just because yogis are up meditating all night, but because everything is upside down. Before I found the path, I was always trying to find through this world, through my friendships, through my roles, through my job, through security, the fulfillment of what I yearned for inside. And I always came up with an empty bag. And I looked around. I'm not completely stupid. And I would look around and I would look in other people's eyes, and you would see that same yearning, that same hunger, and that same effort to find that which filled up. And I tried many things outwardly, and they all ended up in the same place. And then I felt the presence of God through the guidance of Yogananda, through the support of Swami Kriyananda and all those in tune with him, through Ananda. And Ananda is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant as a channel for awakening those who would find God. Because it's not enough to meditate. It's certainly not enough to not meditate, because it's in stillness that we find the presence of God. And we will never find fully the presence of God in anything but stillness. So we should, every one of us should nurture in our hearts a commitment to starting to meditate or increasing our meditation, because therein lies the presence of God. But unless we can meditate all the time, unless we can dynamically have our eyes closed and be in that light that was described this morning in the readings, we have to do something with the rest of our time. And with the rest of our time, we're either working against that realization or in support of that realization. And Ananda was born and designed specifically to give us a life that is in support of our contact of God from deep inside. It has no other purpose. It has no other meaning. It has no other value. But if somebody sincerely wants God, it's one of the most powerful vehicles for God awakening that exists on this planet. I was very, there are many different paths to God outwardly, and one of them is karma yoga. It's action. It's, most of us have a certain specific native response to life. So if I ask you a question, a dynamic question, some of you will go, well, let me think about it. Or, I don't know, how does it feel? And some of us don't want to do either. Some of us just want to get up and do something about it, right? And I had a lot of that going. I was very intellectual also, but I had a lot of that karma yoga. And I got involved when I found Ananda. I started to use my energy in service. And I became a builder, and we became very involved. We created the Temple of the Year Club. Every year we would create at least one temple to help give a place for people to come together and enjoy meditation and enjoy. But what I found was so beautiful was the creation of that temple, the self-offering that went into the creation of those things was often a precursor to ever-increasing experiences of the stillness. That if I didn't serve, if I didn't give myself over, if I didn't tithe, if I didn't tithe my energy and my time as well as my money, if I didn't allow this life force to pour through me, that I was always feeling blocked. There was always some circuitry inside that was not alive. And so when we created the Temple of the Year Club, it just became one of the greatest things. And we took it all over the world. We helped in India, we helped in Europe, we helped throughout the United States. And then we discovered, of course, the thing that we're supposed to discover, which is that everything we build should be a temple. And that everything in our home, we have a little meditation room in our home, a little shrine, a little place where the masters are, and we go and become still there. And it builds a vibration, just like your kitchen and dining room and bedroom all have a vibration. The meditation room has a vibration. And the more we use it for that, the more power there is. When we go to sit, instantly you can go into meditation because it carries you. It was so lovely to find that. Then I realized, why should it just be my meditation room? And so we started putting pictures up all over the house and everywhere we go, and wherever we're sitting, we're trying to feel for that presence. We're trying to feel the stillness. Yogananda came to give that gift, and Ananda is the response. We have, I've been with Ananda Portland now. I was here for 3.5 years in the early 90s. In fact, during the time that we found this and the community and a bunch of other really dynamic, fun projects that happened. And we're all here because of the energy and efforts of those people back then. And then I was gone for 9 years, and then Gangamata and I came back up 11 years ago on Tuesday. And we were asked by Swami Kriyananda to take over the spiritual directorship here. And he said, your primary job is to help people have a deeper experience of themselves. And these things always work through a transmission of consciousness. It's God's consciousness through Yogananda. But it wasn't enough that it was through Yogananda. Yogananda asked Swami Kriyananda, will you be a channel for me? And he said yes. And out of that came Ananda. And Swami Kriyananda asked us, will you be a channel for us and help carry Ananda Portland? Help allow that light to pour through you, to nurture and feed other people having the chance to have a deeper experience of themselves. And we said yes. And through us, who will say yes? Who are those great souls who are saying, yes, I want to help create an environment for others to have this experience. And I will give my time and my efforts. Because in that giving, just like we found, in that giving, in that doing, we found increasingly our own freedom, our own joy. These last 10 years have been remarkable, 11 years have been remarkable. In this time, we completely revamped the Temple and Teaching Center. The beauty that you see here was the self-offering, provided by the self-offering, financially, energetically, by dozens and dozens of people who came together to transform this building into this temple of light. And then we went over to the community, because we have a beautiful community a few miles away, and we completely reinvigorated that. And then we came back and we worked on the school campus that was here and is here, and we revamped that. And all of these things we filled with light through service, through financial self-offering, through coming together coordinated in alignment with this ray of light. And then we went out and we found Ananda Center at Laurelwood and Ananda House at Laurelwood. And these things, the same light of God through our masters, through Swamiji, pours through us into these things. And day by day, people being in tune with them, they continue to nourish the light. Because these things are here, and every single gesture, every single dollar offered, every time people come together and worship, that light grows, becomes more powerful, more beautiful. We have another dynamic year ahead of us. We leave behind all these successes, all the failures. It always looks, by the way, I have never ever once in 30-some years seen an effort to bring more light into this world that looks like it will never work. Every single time, it looks like it's way past our capacity. Every single time, it's way past the capacity. We could never possibly do this. And then we get into it. We decide, well, we trust that God will guide us, and if we stay in tune, these things can happen, and we get into it, and then we know for certain that it could never happen. And this tidal wave of impossibility washes over us. And every single day we have the choice. Do I get up and meditate and pray and tune in and offer myself again? And every time we do, another step is taken until this temple stands here, until Laurelwood stands there, until Ananda House exists, until Living Wisdom School has a chance to become an even brighter star in self-offering to help children come together and discover for themselves the presence of spirit inside. It's the future. It's the hope for the future of this planet, which is so desperately needed. If you listen to the life of Yogananda talking about his own life, if you listen to Swami Kriyananda, if you look at their lives, it was always impossible. It was always impossible. Yogananda came here with hardly a cent, barely speaking English, and out of it has come a movement of consciousness that is changing this world. I want to read. I love Dwapara Yuga. Excuse me. I would like to read something. And then I'm going to go even farther. This is from Jyotish and Devi, the spiritual successors for Swami Kriyananda. And they just wrote, Paramhansa Yogananda's mission was to help usher the whole world with greater understanding and spiritual insight into a new age, Dwapara Yuga, an age of energy in which we live. Someday, Swami Kriyananda wrote, I believe that Yogananda will be seen as the avatar, the spiritual incarnation designed to bring the world into this age. It was a world-changing mission, and therefore his teachings needed to be revolutionary. In some cases, what he taught was well known in India, but created a revolution in the West. Others of his teachings were completely new to this age. Let's look at some of them. Only God exists. There is nothing else. God is both beyond and within all of creation. He dreams this world into existence, and every atom and star and every one of us and everything is created from his consciousness. The goal of life is to awaken to this from the dream and realize our unity with him. Why revolutionary? This ancient Vedic teaching is new to the West, which views creation as wholly separate from God. Daily meditation, stilling the mind, is the way to see behind the dream. Meditation consists of withdrawing outwardly directed prana, concentrating it at the spiritual eye, on God or one of his qualities. Why revolutionary? When Yogananda came in 1920, almost no one meditated or even knew of it. Today, millions do so in the West and increasingly even in the East again. Karma and reincarnation. Every thought, feeling, and action creates a wave of energy that's destined to return to us. As we give, so shall we receive. The results of our own past actions create the circumstances and events of life. The way to free ourselves from this karmic cycle is to accept life, control our reactive process, be even-minded and cheerful, and dissolve the ego. Revolutionary because appreciation of the importance of karma is beginning to sweep the world, and people are beginning to learn to behave, if for no other reason than for fear of what's coming back. We don't need to leave the world. We don't need to step outside of the world in order to experience God. And in fact, it's essential in this time that we don't, most of us. The desire to be happy and avoid pain is the universal motivation behind every action. Over lifetimes, our definition of what makes us happy evolves. At first, happiness is sought in laziness and sensuality, then ego-centered accumulation of possessions or power. Gradually, this evolves into an altruistic desire to help others, and finally, the yearning for self-realization, which alone brings the joy we've always sought. Revolutionary because people everywhere seek things, imagining that happiness lies outside of themselves. And then spiritual community. Spiritual communities provide the optimal environment for the pursuit of happiness and God. Revolutionary because the spiritual community movement is only now starting with Ananda communities as forerunners in the world. Yogananda's revolutionary teachings need to be applied both culturally and personally. And while these points only scratch the surface of what he taught, each is worth a meditation or two to see how they might apply to your life. We are living a revolution, and I invite each one of us this year to bond together with us, to get in tune with that same ray of light that we're carrying, to help bring more beauty, more power and strength, to uplift the other people, to uplift through serving others, our own consciousness and this world. I wanted to end this morning. Again, this is a Dwapara Yuga trick. We're going to listen to the voice of Paramhansa Yogananda. Just a few minutes. So sit up straight. In fact, why don't we stand for just a moment while we get the technology going.
Now it is reaching out to eternity. And it is wonderful to know that we are gathered here, those that love God and those that have dedicated their lives for the purpose of spreading self-realization, the united teachings of Christ and yoga, that all the world may be benefited. All religions are bypaths, they meet in the highway of the true Christ teachings and the true teachings of yoga, which means the scientific way to unite soul and spirit. God is our common Father, and Adam and Eve our common parents, and by the virtue of God that we have gathered in their names is a most gratifying thing. We recognize no barriers and differences, as it should be, for there is but one Father, and we are His children. That beautiful spirit that is displayed here in that united effort and all the beautiful decorations that you have done and all the help that you have done is very wonderful. And I rejoice on this occasion to see how we used to be only 5 or 10 here. And you are the souls that are going to spread all over the earth. A modus operandi, an art of living, which is universal to all nations and religions. True happiness lies within simplicity of living and whole living in God. That's why God, Christ, and the Masters have sent this self-realization as a new dispensation to give freedom to people, establish the temple of true happiness in the souls of men. That's what self-realization teaches. The technique of meditation, recharging the body battery with cosmic energy and helping your fellow beings. And this is our theme, and we are marching on. This work has spread all over the earth, and self-realization is marching on. For it is not a creed or dogma, but the science of the soul and spirit, how the soul descended from the cosmic consciousness into the earth and the body and the senses and property consciousness, how it can disengage itself from property and body consciousness by yoga concentration from the body itself and the plexus and then the ganglia, and reach the Christ intelligence in creation and God the Father, God consciousness beyond creation is the purpose of this work. And as you feel by the practice of Kriya Yoga, the presence of a happiness that you never felt before, the true happiness of meditation, the ever-increasing happiness of meditation produced by Kriya Yoga, is the proof of the existence of God. This was the greatest thing Master told me. When I asked what is the image of God, he said, right when you sleep, you are formless, you are sleeping in space, you are the image of God. The daytime you become a man, nighttime you become a God. Be a God in ecstasy, with ecstasy in the daytime, and you are God all the time. I said, that made sense. When I practiced Kriya Yoga and was filled with ecstasy, the joy that I couldn't find eating ice cream or having an automobile ride or talking to people or playing, when I sat and practiced, I found the presence of God. Church must be a church of God. To give them God consciousness, or it is a misnomer. It must be a living presence place of God.
Let's take this inside and listen